whose lives and properties are in the way. We pray, Lord, for direction and guidance and wisdom. Bless this time together with the commissioners and with the people. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
All of the televisions went off. All right, please follow in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you want me to see here online?
It is online, it's just, they're going to come and address it. So you'll have to be the eyes on the Zoom. All right, so at this time, we'll entertain a motion regarding the order of the agenda.
I move to amend the order of agenda by moving the prosecutor's item directly after the consent agenda.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any comment from the public on changing the order of the agenda? Hearing none, deliberation by the board. Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes?
Commissioner Corn?
Yes.
Commissioner Dumpy?
Yes.
All right, at this time, we'll entertain a motion to adopt the order of agenda as amended.
Based on the information before us, I move to adopt the order of agenda as amended.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any comment from the public on this? Seeing none, deliberation by the board. Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes?
Commissioner Corn?
Yes.
Commissioner Dumpy?
Yes.
All right. Consent agenda. I think there are some questions here on the consent agenda.
Yes. Thankfully, our risk manager's in the room. So, Jocelyn, real quick, wasn't able to catch it before the meeting. So for the Northwest Auto Body invoice, it looks like, again, we have a large miscellaneous line item, like over $3,000 that doesn't seem to be quantified. We get additional details on that. I'm not comfortable with us including that in the consent agenda unless we have details on what those costs are.
Hi, Christian Jocelyn, risk manager for the record. This is the same claim back from February. It's been the board, I think, like 2-3 times, because this is the one as a reminder, we hit a rock on the highway. And so one estimate came in a lot higher, like in the teens. And then we came back and see if they could, instead of replacing the frame, do welding or take the rivets out, they did that. And then the price changed. So the next estimate was like $6,000 or so. That got approved by the board. And the new estimate was higher again, so went back a third time. So that one, we had found out, this is back from like 3-4 months ago, that 3,000 was actually taking it to the dealership to have, I think it was the transmission removed and put back in. And we did get the breakdown, but it's been months now, so yeah,
Okay.
that's the same
The
exact
fact that it's
thing,
the
so.
same one then that's sufficient for me because we did get that detail previously. I just saw the miscellaneous line item.
Yeah, and just, to the reason I'm back again, it's already been approved 3 times, but the final bill's a little higher than the last one because they welded in a skid plate, all sorts of other stuff. So just for auditing, because it doesn't match the last time you approved, that's why I'm here for this one. Just
Okay, so
it's crept up a little higher again.
not
but
a
nothing to
new
do with the
vehicle.
3,000. Yep.
Okay.
I don't
Thank you.
think it's the creeping up that's the problem, it's the miscellaneous
Right.
label that's put on it. So I noticed the welding for the skid plate and all that, that's all itemized, but we don't know what miscellaneous is.
And that was the one out at the dealership. I think I had to do the transmission, removing it, putting it back in for them.
In the future, I think the board would appreciate it if it would spell that out.
Yeah, I think we did in the past, but I'll put it back on this one again too. But that was addressed, I think, by the second approval. That all came back out again and fixed. But they must have slipped it back in that way. But it was, yeah, we had all the documentation by the second approval of what that all was, all the breakdown. But yeah, understood.
So I think, yeah, just in the future then, when anytime we have a final invoice coming in, like we said, if the miscellaneous line item is more than $20 or $30 for small
like a couple
parts,
$100,
then
yeah.
we really want to
Yep.
We want to have a detailed breakdown.
Yep, and we address that, but I'll include it next time on this one too, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep,
So I had kind of same similar on this one because we've had this happen a couple times. And on one of them, the miscellaneous was actually a kind of subcontract of auto body work to another person to actually do work. And so since Northwest Auto Body was the one we contracted with, but another person did the work, we didn't actually get the full scope of work that the person did. And so the way we would do that is attach you have to carry that attachment from the Tyler through every time you want to bring it, so we know it's the same one, because when I look at it, is it the same miscellaneous or is it a new miscellaneous one? And that one I actually can't accept the answer because I don't know, because you're not showing the same bill multiple times. You're just telling me this is the same miscellaneous from the one before. And so for me, I want to see that one because this is coming through again for us to see. And you didn't have the attachment on this one.
no,
On
I
the
can
one-
include it when I enter it, I can include I think it was back in May or something, they included all the detail of what the miscellaneous was, I can include
On
it.
that one, and that one already went through Tyler. This is a new one.
No, this is the same claim.
No, but it doesn't have that. You're not having
Yeah,
that
I didn't-
attachment.
I didn't bring it out of the file and put it back in, I can do that when I enter it, definitely. But it's not a new claim, it's the same claim.
It's the same
Yeah.
vehicle, but I can't confirm or deny the miscellaneous portion of it, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because we've had a couple of vehicles, and I don't want to try to commit my memory to, is this that same exact one? Because it's happened more than once where we've addressed that when we're contracting with someone and then they have to send it out to get something else done, that instead of calling the work to us miscellaneous, we need to see what were they charged to complete that leg of it. And I believe that happened on more than one vehicle that we had from the sheriff's office, and I want to make sure my vote on this miscellaneous is the same,
Yeah.
is consistent with what we're talking about, because we did that more than once.
And it's the same vehicle, same thing. I just failed to include all that paperwork back from beginning of summer that explained the miscellaneous. 'Cause it was the same exact vehicle. It was the same rock one. It's not a new one, where they shared all the info from the dealership on the transmission swap. So I can definitely either send it to you or include it when I send it to auditing to be paid. I'll make sure that's in there too. But for sure we got that, yeah.
For me, approval of this has to get flagged in Tyler to show that miscellaneous bill, because
I'll include
that,
it.
I'd need to be able to say I can confirm that I saw that part of the miscellaneous one. So, any further questions?
Not on this. Do you have anything on this?
No.
Since you're warmed up, I'll ask you a question on your second item.
Oh, yeah.
So do we know who the driver was on that guardrail, that damaged that guardrail?
This one, this time, yes. The one before is unknown, but this one is a truck and a trailer, like a pickup truck, so we have the insurance info and I'm working with them to get reimbursed, yeah.
Okay, so we will get reimbursed for this one?
I can't promise, but I'm working on it because we have a police report, they're still on scene, so it looks
Okay.
good, but I don't want to promise anything.
Okay, thank you.
They lost control and basically took it out. The same one we repaired about 6 months ago, same one got hit again, so,
Okay,
yeah. But I'm definitely working to get it back.
thank you.
Any further questions?
None.
All right, so I got to call out our high-ticket items on our consent agenda. Fairgrounds, we have earthwork construction services auditing $5,500, and JW hauling auditing gravel and grading improvements for $8,000. We discussed risk. The total for one claim is $11,001.20. The second claim is $13,533. Sheriff has some approvals for monthly rates for phone service at $67.20 a month, then $83.60 a month, then a confidential item of $5,548.82. Technology has a confidential item of hardware, software of $10,000. A second item of clerk and AMP treasurer financial software, $55,153.44. Noxious weeds, customer spray auditing, $18,071.48. So this is a a lot on that consent agenda. With that, we'll entertain a motion regarding the consent agenda.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
I second the motion. Any comment from the public on the consent agenda?
Wayne Martin, Bonner County resident. On the fair, was that for the parking lot out in front of the buildings, or was there additional work?
Front parking lot is $8,000, and then grading improvements at the indoor arena were $5,500.
Thank you.
And the lean-to of the indoor arena.
Any further questions on the consent agenda? All right, further deliberation by the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes?
Commissioner Longstreet,
Yes?
Commissioner Layard.
Yes. All right. Prosecutor.
Commissioners, so made a pretty large strategic mistake, and I was talking to my attorneys about good movies, and I started talking about Braveheart. And lo and behold, one of my prized prosecutors, Sarah Hyde, she watches the movie, and she's like, "Oh my God, I want to go to Scotland." So I was like, they don't all look like Mel Gibson in his prime. Maybe some of them do, I don't know. So anyway, she has decided to do that for the upcoming year, and we have worked out an agreement whereby she can't legally, as part of her student visa, she's not allowed to be an independent contractor. That would have been the easiest thing. So what I'm trying to do is just convert her from a full-time employee to a part-time employee. And so I'm not asking for a new position. I don't need a new position. Frankly, if, as you well know, I've been having difficulties in filling slots. If I thought that there was going to be a continuation in that problematic, if I didn't think I was going to be able to fill these positions, I wouldn't be doing this because I would need a full-time person. I don't think that's true. Just hired a guy yesterday. I've got 2 more potential people that I'm interviewing this week. I think the full-time slots are going to be filled. So I think I can afford moving this position from a full-time to a part-time. Things that she can do for us, probably not go to court very much, although there is Zoom, but frankly, I don't need her for court. There's a ton of administrative things, and the time difference actually works because a lot of our kind of heavy work is done at 8 o'clock in the morning from like 7 to 11 o'clock in the morning. That's her afternoon into evening. She'll be fine. She's also only taking classes 3 days a week, 3 days a week. And so she is allowed as part of her visa to work up to 20 hours. The questions that I can't answer right now are frankly, I think going to be pretty minor. One is workers' comp, the other is unemployment insurance. I don't have numbers for those. She's not going over there to be a longshoreman. I really truthfully can't imagine that workers' comp is going to be a big number. However, if those things don't work out, if they don't pencil out, then we can't. We just won't be able to do it. But I anticipate this is doable. I know Kootenai and Shoshone just went through the same thing with a person that they are a guy whose wife actually went over for a program, and he is working as a prosecutor, joint prosecutor between Shoshone and Kootenai County, and they just made it work. So,
I think, can I add some stuff?
yes.
I think it's important in terms of, as the board discusses this, that it's confirmed that she will maintain Idaho state residency, which is impactful in terms of insurance, that you're actually reducing budget by taking full-time to part-time.
Yes.
And then that part of what you're also doing is trying to maintain the knowledge base that you've already built in, because if she leaves, then you would still have the need for then a part-time person that you would have to onboard. So maintaining her allows for you to continue. And that kind of the barrier here is in terms of industrial insurance and employment insurance internationally, I don't know that it's going to be inexpensive. It's what is the county, and making a decision based on what you know. So those were my 2 things was insurance associated with the decision. But I wanted to confirm for the board as we discuss it that she's not going to be a resident of another country. She's
she can't
staying
be.
as a resident of the state of Idaho.
That is correct. Also, I've told you I've lost prosecutors. I haven't just lost prosecutors. I've lost my senior prosecutors that have unique skill sets. She possesses that skill set, so she deals with very, very difficult cases. Right now, I'm doing those cases again, which I don't have time for, frankly. But what she can do is she does all of the background work, and then basically I can just be pushed into court and then do what I do. But there's a lot of work behind the scenes, trust me.
So help me understand. So maintaining Idaho residency, a student visa, does that, and I'm looking at our HR director, does that impact HR laws, rules, and regulations from an international perspective? Does it still fall within Idaho's HR rules, or are we now dealing with international implications?
Jonathan Holmgren, Bonner County HR Director. To my knowledge, I'm not seeing any impact to United States or Idaho-specific employment law. The big question I had was what the restrictions were of the visa. The key thing is she's not going to be an employee of a United Kingdom-based country. That'd be the most severe restriction that'd probably be prohibited with the visa. But as Mr. Marshall explained, up to 20 hours a week, it's US-based employer, that shouldn't have an impact. So as of this point, I don't see any adverse impact. The only HR consideration I've had is Bonner County does not have a remote or flexible policy for working. We simply have a very basic attendance policy. It's number 450 in our personnel handbook, and all that addresses is reporting to work and remaining at work for the entire schedule. And what's implied is that work is where you physically work at. I don't think this has been updated to account for how the world has changed in the past 5 years or so. So we probably need to move in the direction of looking at some of our policies comprehensively as a whole, and we'd need clear direction and guidance from the board for which ones to look at, and that's a whole separate approval process. But whatever we need to do to creatively come to a solution to make whatever needs to happen for the county and for the different offices, so we can get done what needs to get done, retain qualified, excellent employees, and continue to provide excellent service to the county and its needs. We're ready to jump however high is needed, just once we've got a clear decision and guidance.
Can I ask you to double back and state your name and your position with the county?
Yes, absolutely. Jonathan Holmgren, Human Resources Director for Bonner County.
All right.
And a quick follow-up, if I could. So, because the county has had some scenarios where there have been some staff positions in the past that have been allowed to move to a different state and work remotely, and that, to my understanding, has created some significant challenges with different states having different employment laws and how that gets translated and dealt with. So, and as a comparison then, am I understanding correctly that because of maintaining Idaho residency and working under a student visa, it's actually simpler and easier in this case than it would be for somebody that's working in a different state of the United States?
Yes, and also the fact that it's working for a US-based employer, not a UK-based employer. That's a key thing that in my initial research would kind of trigger certain things in student visas, but that's not a question for working in the foreign country where the visa is for, so that wouldn't violate that, to my understanding. I would obviously have to defer to UK immigrations and visa expert on all of that. It's a little bit outside of the purview of human resources within the United States and within Idaho, but that is correct to my understanding at this point.
I appreciate it. That was just, when we first saw international, I assumed it would be more challenging and difficult versus less than what we've dealt with other states in the union. So I appreciate that information.
Frankly, I just wanted to prep you guys as I plan on spending my last term in the Bahamas.
Exactly.
I wanted to make sure, we have this policy in place before I do that.
Seems to be the way it's going.
All right. Anything further for HR?
Not for HR, but I have a question for Louis. What about security risks as far as internet and work stuff being transmitted back and forth?
We talked about it with Marcus. He does not have those concerns, but I think that you and I can address that with him. Obviously, I can't. I can only speak at the 30,000 foot level. I can't talk like the computer guys, but we did bring that up with Marcus and he says it's okay.
They reference that in your motion, in your memorandum. there's advancements in the case management capabilities to allow you to adapt to Carpel secure case management system. So they address that part of security. So outside, because I heard this from the back, do we see an additional cost, or is it just continuation of, is there a cost associated? And so will you have, so typically, one of the things that has to happen is we have to have a remote work policy. And there has to be an expectation of what the obligations are to include who sets up an office. So in some remote work, the company that you work for actually sets up your office. And others, it's told that the person must set up their own office, and they're responsible for ensuring the ergonomic nature of their setup, that the company's not going to do that. So for me, those things before, we've already stated before as a county that our policy manual needs to be updated, but before a move, we would have to update that policy to address also what are the US hours of operation that we would expect someone who is remote in another country to be available by phone and by, a very clear document of what that is, not just knowing our hours are 8 to 12, you're saying part-time, what are the US hours you expect that person to work? So any further questions for Prosecutor Marshall?
Actually, along those lines, just looking at the resolution, I don't think we've identified in any way if there are any other costs, say internet or things of that nature, infrastructure aspects to maintaining this cloud-based online work environment. Are those costs that would be borne by the employee, or are those costs that would be borne by the county?
Do you have internet through your student?
Yes, so Sarah Hyde, I'm a deputy prosecutor with the Bonner County Prosecutor's Office. Because our case management software is completely web-based, I'm able to log on from home. I will bear the cost of my own internet. I will be streaming lots of BBC crime dramas, so I will be paying for internet anyway. So that is a cost I will bear.
Thank you.
I asked my stuff. I already talked about this one, so. Any further questions?
She just needs her laptop. She's not gonna have an office, like a real office. That's
I'm
it.
happy to speak more to that if you have further questions.
You guys have questions further for the prosecutor's office?
I guess I'll just put it this way to be really broad. Are there any costs to the county outside of the normal employment salary and benefits that you're anticipating that this resolution would be authorizing?
No, the answer is no, and I firmly believe that the costs are gonna reduce to the county because you're going from full-time to part-time and no health insurance. So I anticipate it's gonna be a cost saving to the county, substantial.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions, Commissioner?
I'm good.
All right, at this time, we'll entertain a motion on this item.
Is the resolution number 53?
Yes. You want to do the motion?
Based on the information before us, I move for the board to approve resolution number 25-53, authorizing the creation and modification of fully remote, part-time deputy prosecuting attorney position within the prosecutor's office in order to maintain the quality of legal services that are provided.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any comment from the public on this agenda item? Seeing none, deliberation by the board. My only comment would be that we need to update our policy, and if the prosecutor's office would work with HR to expedite an updated work-at-home policy, and not a policy that's specific to the situation, but a work-at-home remote policy. And then in anticipation that the board votes to pass it, very clear office hours of operation and responsibilities in detail that you do what they work at home in terms of responsibility of connectivity, responsibility of maintaining the data, because we are still subject to like your records request of email and all of that good stuff. And what do we do when we have an issue or a potential breach of something when we're not in control of that service? Is something we need to very clearly identify so that technology knows its role, HR knows its role. And then my other disclaimer is it also needs to have us knowing what our obligation is for workers' comp insurance for the county as well as employment insurance, because there are different employment laws between the two. Yes, you'd be working here, but based there, and we want to make sure we're compliant and that we check that box off. Okay. All right. Any further deliberation by the board? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Donkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Lennon?
Yes.
Commissioner Thornton?
Yes.
All right. Motion passes. So we'll let you guys don't have another item. If you don't want to sit all the way in the back, you guys can exit it if you wanted to leave. With your support group, they did a good job back there. All right, next item is our Bonner County Fires update. So Chris Nay's district rate.
Chris Noyes, acting Sandpoint District Ranger, Priest Lake District Ranger. And Eric, would you guys like to go first so you can get engaged back on? Up to you guys. There's a little more going on that fire than the one I'm going to speak to, so.
My name's Eric Shulquist. I'm the area manager for the Idaho Department of Lands here in Sandpoint. On the Sunset Fire, I'm the agency administrator, which quickly just means that once a fire exceeds the capacity of our local resources, we have engines, the Forest Service has engines here. But once a fire exceeds our capability, like this one has, we will order an incident management team to help us, and then they will assume that organization and the fire, So Kevin is here, liaison officer, to give kind of an update.
Can y'all hear me?
We
Good deal.
can.
So Kevin Doherty, Liaison Officer, Northern Rockies Team 5. My position as liaison officer is basically be the conduit to the local community, sheriff's office, fire chiefs, basically the cooperators, gas companies, utilities, all that. I just really want to say thank you. This has been a super easy transition into this town. Commissioner Korn's been attending a lot of our meetings. And so far, we feel like we're getting all the support we need. Super responsive to the questions from the team, and we really appreciate it. As far as the fire update, first, if you haven't found our sort of fire page, it has all the information you need. And then if you don't have that, I'll send that to Commissioner Korn and you can blast it out to this group so you can get daily updates. The big thing going on is the north part of the fire is still uncontrolled and it's really steep, to the point where we can't get heavy equipment in there. And so what we're doing is we have these groups called hotshot crews, which are called type 1 firefighters. And they're basically the people you send in the steep, nasty stuff that you can't send normal folks into because they'll get hurt. So that's what we got going on right now. As far as I know, I think we have two shot crews on the north end of that fire, and they're looking for tie-in points, and they know what's going on. I just got a text that it sounds like we set the record for basically retardant from the Coeur d'Alene base hitting the front of that fire. Because of all the values at risk around here, we're getting a lot of fills. So we've got two things going for us. One is the IDL and the Type 3 team crushed it. They set us up really well, and they were ordering heavy when they were exceeding the span of control. So we arrived with resources in hand and a good plan, and they did a good job. Right now, we're just sort of tightening up around the bottom half of the fire. There's sort of another steep uncontrolled section, and we're trying to make sure that doesn't squirt out, and we've been talking with Stimson Lumber and others on our plan for that. The big fight is the north part of the fire. Right now, we've got about 3 more days, I think, of kind of cooler weather, and we're doing everything we can to kind of get it dialed in and before it gets weather tested. So that's kind of where we're at right now. The size of these fires, the concern will be if it starts getting a big steam ahead, it starts throwing sparks out in front of it. And so we have initial attack crews that'll be on that, be prepared, get ready to go. And then the structure protection, they're actually going around to every single house in the areas that are the most likely path of the fire. And they're inventorying, like, can we get into them? How are we going to defend them? A lot of these places do not have great egress, and so they don't have safety zones. And what that means for firefighters is we're not going to put someone into a spot that they can't get out of. So a lot of the stuff they're doing, they're basically shrubbing it, lopping off stuff, and then they're setting up what they call pumpkins, which is a big water, and they'll turn on sprinklers effectively if it comes over, and then they basically get out of the area. That's worst case scenario. Right now, we're pretty dialed for, I think we're day 2 or 3. It all kind of blends together. But it's pretty much great support from the community. Last night we had, I think, 504. I think the church has a counting system, and that went really well. And it's always heartbreaking, when you're at the map and someone has lost their home, and it's real. So we know that, and we're doing what we can, but we really want to say thank you for what's been going on, the communication and support. If there's anything that you need as a community, basically it goes through me and then I take it to the team.
Any questions from him? I wanted to, because there's the site that I think you're referencing is the Firewatch site. Is that what you were mentioning?
Well, there's Watch Duties, an app that a lot of people use, but that we actually have an actual fire information that's directly coming from our public information officer. And so every day there's an email going out at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, depending on what's going on, and that's where we get our information.
I was trying to remember what the site, or how it alerts. So it sends you out an alert when they're doing an update for most people if you want to know what's going on, and it specifically names the fire sites. So it gives you pretty good information. I think that's what was dinging off.
Was that information you're talking about on that sheet last night with all the QR codes?
All the QR codes, that's exactly, so that was all, they're all dialed in there. So if you don't have that, I'll send it to you. I have your email.
I do have that.
Okay, good.
So I'm gonna go grab it real quick and I'll throw it on the corner of the table. Anybody can take a picture of it or whatever as you guys leave, that's fine.
That'd be perfect.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Any other questions on the status of fire?
Are you interested in letting the community ask you questions?
Sure.
All right, any community questions about the fire? All right, you sounded so confident that you scared questions away. So.
There you go.
Well, thank you guys for your service and coming to tell the community what it's helpful when people get to see who's leading that and get their updates too. It's a hard thing to manage, and I know there's a lot of boots on the ground right now, but thank you guys.
We all seem to like each other, and it makes my job a lot easier.
There you go.
It really does.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank
you.
Oh, Diane. Just speak loud. Lean back and speak loud.
There was a Facebook announcement from a woman who said that she's really been working on feeding all the firefighters and making sure that they're eating, and that there are rules that it only be prepared meals by her or restaurants. And I believe that because that's a good safety rule, but I want to make sure that is true and that the public can't just assist as well, other than buying packaged foods.
Yeah, so generally speaking, we have national caterers come in and they're 100% dialed on feeding the firefighters. For folks like myself who use cell phones, the big challenge is not getting fat on assignment because they get 10,000 calories a day.
But old ladies want to make cookies and feed you.
Yeah, the short answer is technically correct, but most people will take a cookie and say thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's good to know.
That's kind of what I would say about that.
All right, thank you.
All right. Mr. Bowman.
Good morning, Dave Bowman here. Appreciate Kevin's information, that's very helpful. And not to take anything away from Incident Command and all the resources that have come in from elsewhere and IDL and all the hard work and amazing stuff they've been doing. I'd just like to add in.
That happened before.
I hit the wrong button.
Oh, okay.
the first on scene, this is in Selkirk or Sagal's district, and the local fire districts have contributed mightily and are still on this fire, as well as all the resources that have come out from outside. But, Timberlake, Sagal, Northside, all of Selkirk, KCFR, I think was, so I'd just like to put in a little plug for all the local fire services that have been very involved in this. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I would just like to say ditto. They've been phenomenal. And then, Chief Armstrong is actually in our structure protection team. He's the one that's leading the process of going through and triaging homes and saying, can we defend it? Like, can we not defend it? And he's also working to get local resources ordered to the fire so that we can get them off your payroll and onto ours. So very much appreciated, and always, like, it's your community. We're here to help.
Thank you. Back to you, Corey.
Again, my name is Chris Noyes, District Ranger in Sandpoint, and the agency administrator for the Lightning Creek Fire just north of Clark Fork. And just giving you a brief update on it. It's currently sitting at 2,500 acres. We have 21% containment, and that containment line is largely along the Lightning Creek Road. That means we have a high degree of confidence that the fire will not reactivate there and cross the road in that section. The areas of uncontained line are up that very steep slope in that drainage. The fire is still contained within the Cougar Fire Scar area. We're still deploying a full suppression strategy. We have it staffed. And just a few days ago, we transitioned from that Type 3 incident management team, Shane Martin's team, Northern Rockies Team 9, who did an excellent job, back to the local unit as a Type 4 incident. As the complexity has been reduced, we've also completed most of our suppression repair activities, such as chipping the brush and limbs that were generated as far as felling and some fuels reduction in the area.
All right. Any questions from the board on that fire?
Could you just explain real briefly what it takes to consider it contained?
Sure.
As far as your margins?
Yeah. I'm not maybe the foremost expert on this, but generally speaking, contained means we have a high degree of confidence that the fire in that section of line will not reactivate and then come across. So you'll oftentimes see there'll be line constructed along the fire, but we haven't called it contained yet, because oftentimes to contain, you have to send folks in, sometimes set distance, depends on the fuel type, and people literally crawl around on their hands and knees and feel for any hot material. So if there's anything hot that's going to be pretty close to the fire line, it wouldn't be in that contained status. And that's how we get that high degree of confidence. Again, there's no absolutes, but how we get that high degree of confidence that the fire along that section of the perimeter is secure.
I think it's a lot of misconception from the public when they see that it's not burning, but there's a 0% containment or something. They're like, well, we don't quite understand.
Yeah,
So-
and in emerging incidents, right, obviously we're going to dedicate our resources to where the fire is active, and doing that, what we call cold trailing, going through, feeling for those hot spots, is resource intensive in terms of the number of personnel it takes, the time it takes to be thorough. You know, they're digging into root wads, stumps that are in the ground, and burrowing down and trying to, mix dirt in, pour water on it if that's available. So it just takes a lot of time. And so, yeah, when you're seeing those, like on incidents where there is line there, but the fire is still active, we're obviously engaged because that's where the threat is at the time. And one more thing on the lightning fire, we reduced the area closure that was in place to a linear road closure now. There's still a lot of snags along that Lightning Creek Road, and we still have equipment up there working and firefighters actively suppressing anything that pops up. So the Lightning Creek Road itself is still within that closed area.
Any further questions from the board? Do you want to accept some community questions on that one?
Love to.
All right. Any questions from the community on what he reported out? All right. Well, thank you for your service, Steve.
Yeah, thank you.
No questions. Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Chris.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. Clerk's office.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am here with FY '25 claims batch number 45 totaling $986,619.58 for your approval. And then really the big ticket items, Road and Bridge had about $77,000. The main hit is in solid waste, a total of $717,000 this go. And the sheriff did purchase those 2 trucks, $92,000. That was about it.
All right, does the board have any questions? Commissioner Corn?
Nope.
All right, at this time, we'll entertain a motion.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve payment of FY '25 claims in batch number 45 totaling $986,619.58.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any comment from the public on this agenda item? Seeing none, deliberation by the board. Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes?
Commissioner Ford?
Yes.
Commissioner Donkey?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Matt.
Matt Mulder, Staff Engineer for the Road and Bridge Department. So today we are seeking the board's approval for a contract to award a guardrail project on East Shore Road in the 3000 block. This is the road that is on the eastern shore of Priest Lake, right down along the water. And this area in particular is about 11,000 feet long that needs guardrail, where the road is narrow and kind of between a cliff on the right side and a very narrow shoulder, steep bank, and the lake on the left side. And the water here is hundreds of feet deep, where if a car goes in, it's gonna sink away, and for all we know, there may be cars down in there and we wouldn't even know about it. But it has been on our radar to install guardrail through this section for a while. It is listed in the county's 5-year transportation plan for some of the safety improvements that we need. But 11,000 feet is a lot of guardrail. And so we're breaking this up into phases. And so this year we're just doing phase 1. And the way that I decided to put this contract out for semi-formal bidding was to do a fixed price variable quantity contract. So the price was not to exceed $249,900, which keeps us under the limit needing to go out to formal bid. And then we asked the bidders, how many feet of guardrail can you install staying at or under that amount, plus the end terminals and traffic control and other stuff that goes along with the project. So we put this out to the 3 guardrail companies that I know of in Idaho, and Ideal Fencing Corporation was the apparent better bidder. They're not, well, they are low, but for $249,866, they can lay out 5,512 and a half feet of guardrail. Second place bidder, Frank Gurney, for about the same amount of money, can do 1,000 feet less of guardrail, 4,500 feet. And Northwest Guardrail out of Boise opted not to return a quote. So our recommendation is that we award this to Ideal Fencing Corp. for the amount of $249,866 to put down 5,512 and a half feet of guardrail. So that would be about half of the total distance that we need to do out there as phase 1. And we'd come back next year or in some future years to do additional phases to continue working on this project. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board.
Does the board have any questions?
No. I'll just say I appreciate the bid approach. I think it's a good way to look for the best value. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Not gonna lie, it makes me ask, Christian, did you ask this other company for your quote? Because we've got a Frank Gurney one in here, and I'm like, what? Ideal was lower. Anyhow, okay. I don't have any questions. It just caught my eye. Commissioner Korn? All right, at this time, we'll entertain a motion.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve this contract with Ideal Fencing Corp. for the installation of guardrail on East Shore Road, Phase 1, for the fixed cost variable quantity amount of $249,866.00 to cover 5,512.5 feet of guardrail.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any question from the public or comment on this agenda item? Teresa Heisner.
Good morning, Teresa Heisner, Priest River. I do have a concern. I mean, I think guardrails are great and are needed, especially along our river as well. However, my concern is people are afraid of the guardrail, and that road is so narrow. I tow my boat and trailer up there often, and I do see a problem with people trying not to hit the guardrail coming into oncoming traffic. So I hope you can get that guardrail over as far as you can to the lake. Thank you.
Any additional comment from the public on this agenda item? All right, deliberation by the board. Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Ford?
Yes.
Commissioner Donkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, BOCC, Lakeland Joint School District Certification Extension Request.
Would you like me to read it?
Well, I was going to ask Commissioner Corn, because he wants to make sure I turn to the left. Want to read it?
I'll read it.
There you go.
Didn't know if you wanted me to read the next one or not. Lakeland Joint School District number 272 respectively requests an extension of the September 4, 2025 deadline for submitting our tax levy information to the county. Our Board of Trustees may authorize an emergency levy which requires calculating the average daily attendance during the first week of school. This year, school begins on September 2nd, 2025, and we will use the first 3 days for enrollment counts. We anticipate that our board will meet on or before September 10th, 2025, to consider the potential emergency levy. Therefore, we request an extension of the submission deadline of September 12th, 2025.
All right. This
Has
is
not been
similar.
approved by auditing, risk, or legal.
This is similar to all of the ones we did last week. It's just this school district is in Kootenai. Any questions from the board for ourselves about what we just read? All right, at this time, we'll entertain a motion.
Based on the information for us, I move to approve West Bonner County School District.
Nope,
What the
that's
heck
not
is
right.
that?
That is not right.
I will reword that. Based on the information before us, I move to approve the Lakeland Joint School District number 272 L2 certification extension request.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comment from the public on this item? Seeing none, deliberation by the board. Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Donkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Ford?
Yes.
All right, next item. I don't know who put it on there.
I did.
Oh, okay. Well, back to you.
Would you like me to
Yeah,
read it?
if you want to.
BOCC previously delegated administrative oversight of the Human Resources Department and Risk Management to the Prosecutor's Office in Resolution number 24-78, but now finds it's necessary and appropriate to rescind that delegation. Resolution number 2554 rescinds resolution number 24-78 and restructures the administrative oversight of the Human Resources Department and the Risk Management to report directly to the Bonner County Board of Commissioners.
Any explanation or discussion on that? Before we-
From what I've been seeing, I'm not sure why it was moved under the prosecutor's office in the first place, but I think we would have more oversight and more direct relations with HR if it was directly under the commissioner's office. I am very hesitant about moving departments under other electeds because they're county departments. I would like to see most everything under the Board of Commissioners.
I don't care one way or another. I'm tired of it moving back and forth and back and forth. There is nothing that happens that I can't do wherever it resides. I would just like to not come back another year and move it. We need to build a strong HR department within Bonner County. And the reason it was moved wasn't for anything other than to give people in HR a complaint process by which to grieve against the county commissioners. That's what it was for. It wasn't that, that's all that it was for. So I just don't want to keep moving it back and forth. There needs to be some consistency that exists within HR and the organizational structure of Bonner County.
So my opinion based on observation, having not been on the board at the time this decision was made previously, was that it appeared to be a means of trying to address personality issues. And I don't think as government we should ever restructure because of personalities. We need to move past personalities and address those types of situations in a different way. I agree this shouldn't go back and forth. I believe that statutorily it makes the most sense to sit underneath the Board of County Commissioners because ultimately we have to make all of the approvals when it comes to the spending that have to do with authorizing new positions, changing positions. There's such an integral aspect of coordination that has to happen with HR that I just think that this is structurally, organizationally the right approach. And I think we can just state that if anyone in HR ever has a concern with a member of the board or the board as a whole, that they have the opportunity to go to the prosecutor to be a neutral party to help to assist with such a potential conflict if they feel that coming to the board with that issue would not be advantageous because it may have to do with a conflict on the board itself. So I think we can always look to a third party elected to come in and try to offer assistance in that way. I did ask Prosecutor Marshall if he was comfortable with that approach, that he could be that party if there was ever, say a member, the director of HR had an issue with something that I was doing as a commissioner and didn't want to come to the board with the issue, then they could go to the prosecutor to help advocate for them to the board on that issue. And so I consider that to be the best organizational structure. And I think we just comes down to accountability. We have to be held accountable. And if I'm not doing my job correctly, then I need to be called out to address it. But we need to structurally maintain as much integrity of roles and responsibilities as we can. And so I think this makes a lot of sense.
So from HR best practices, it falls into the grievance process for personnel. And so it's not personality, we have to address the policy. And in part, it didn't get addressed, it was just move it. And so that will be the next policy that has to be worked on because it was everybody in the hierarchy has to have a grievance process that they can rely on by a policy. So we have to create the grievance policy that addresses, because the overall function of HR and the interaction from the board will exist regardless of where it sits. The purpose of the who's over it has to do with the essentially who's writing the performance evaluations of the director, because then the director is going to do it for the people below. The thing that has to be addressed is the grievance process, which is lacking in the county as a whole of who do you complain to kind of deal, because it's an employment requirement that we do that. So when you onboarded, I said the policy book is antiquated, needs to be updated. In part, that's one of the ones that has to be fixed is a grievance process in line with employee law. So, okay. Any further comments about this? All right, at this time, we'll entertain a motion regarding this item.
Based on the information before us, I move that the board rescind resolution number 24-78 and approve resolution number 25-54, assigning direct reporting authority of the Human Resources Department and the Risk Management Department to the Bonner County Board of Commissioners.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions for the public on this item? Dave Bowman.
Good morning, Dave Bowman again, Bonner County. I just wanted to clarify, I think Commissioner Williams, you were talking about the need for a grievance process throughout for all employees, and Commissioner Domke, you had mentioned that if the HR director has an issue, and I just wanted to, I think what Commissioner, I agree with both of you, but there has to be a process for all employees if they have an issue with the board to be able to go through the prosecutor. And we know that there's some history here. And so I just wanted to clarify that or make sure that we're that that's where you were headed with that. Thanks.
You're correct. I was being specific to two issues. The policy for the county overall has to be addressed. The reason for the move of HR had to do with being able to have an opportunity to grieve against the Board of Commissioners, essentially. Because when you look at the hierarchy of, you come and tell me you don't like what I did and ask me to give you justice, most people aren't going to say anything. So that's what the decision was. Dimitri.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dmitry Borisov, Bonner County resident. I have no real problems with moving HR under Commissioners, but I would like to ask first, address the policy issues, make the policies first, and then do the move. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment from the public? All right, deliberation by the board. I'll answer my position on the fixing the policy is if the county didn't do work until that policy manual was fixed, we would not do any work. That is the honest answer. You have to recognize when that's an ideal way that we have a policy, but if the change needs to be made and we create it, and I think that's why when we were in our other discussion with needing the policy about remote work, my comment was we need to make a policy not for a situation, but for the manual. And as we stumble across these issues as they come up, it's the right thing to say we need a new policy, but to not make a decision for me. It's not a level of critical policy need that we need to wait until that's done. I think that there needs to be an expectation and that we say, okay, we asked for this policy to be done. Where are we as we onboard the new director? But there are policies that are urgently needed. We do have a-ish policy for grievance, and we'll get through that for me until we can fix it. That's my position on it. But I recognize having the policy in place is a better approach. It's just not reasonable when you look how antiquated that book is. That book is very antiquated. Any further deliberation by the board?
I'll agree that that's the ideal approach. However, because we have a new HR director who's just started, I think now is the time for us to establish the right organizational structure and just lead from that position, trying to do it midstream because it could take quite some time to update policies. And they're by no fault of any intention, the current configuration of organizational structure has created confusion and some challenges. And so I think we just need to correct that structure and then continue down the path of making these updates that we're talking about.
And we need to make sure you have somebody to complain about as he's onboarding. So. All right. Roll call vote. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. District 1 Commissioner update.
All right. I do, of course, want to start with the wildfire situation. I really appreciate the update that was brought forward. I appreciate Commissioner Korn bringing that onto the agenda and asking for those folks to come in and provide that information to us. And my deep thanks and appreciation goes out to everyone in our community that are working on fighting these wildfires and also those who are being impacted by it. I want to specifically make sure that we recognize as many as we can, and I know I'm not going to catch everyone, but in my experience and involvement so far, we have the incident command teams, because we've had more than one involved. We have IDL, the Red Cross, Bonner County Emergency Management, the Bonner County Sheriff's Office, Bonner County Ambulance Service District, the local fire departments, ARES, CERT, and other volunteer groups. I'm sure I'm not even catching them all. And then just so many individual citizens who have been stepping up, whether they've been helping these entities in some way, whether they've just been helping friends, neighbors, and community members. It's really important to see us pulling together. I'd also like to just acknowledge again, the Red Cross and Bonner County Emergency Management. The two times that I visited the evacuation centers, first at the Sagal Elementary before it moved over to the Coquilala Bible Camp, and then at the Bible Camp, everyone I spoke with from the Red Cross was being very attentive and thoughtful about understanding what the individual needs were of each person or family that was there, down to what kind of pets did they have and what kind of accommodations were needed that might be unique to that situation for that person or family. And that level of attention, the human touch part of it's really important. So I really appreciate that. And I know that the Coquilala Bible Camp was not on the list of predetermined places for an evacuation center. I think Director Howard just thought it could be a good solution, and they jumped at the opportunity to help. So again, I really appreciate their willingness to be a part of that. Also, there were some conversations that came out with some frustrations that some folks had about trying to understand the evacuation locations and the use of an evacuation map. It's my understanding that this is in process, but I just want to say that for those folks who have been concerned or frustrated by that, it's my understanding that there's ongoing communications right now between the Sheriff's Office and IDL to develop useful maps for this for the future. Because we all know how hard it can be to read the text message and try to translate what that means on a map when you think about roads and cardinal directions and all those things. And so that concern and frustration has been heard, and it is being worked on. And so, again, it's kind of outside of the direct purview of what we do with our GIS department and things of that nature, because that's come up. But I want folks to understand that there are those who are in the incident command and management structure who are looking at this issue. And so I think it's an important one to address, but the right people are looking into it. And so that's good to know. And then related to that, this morning, our emergency management team forwarded information from Chief Armstrong with Sagal Fire District. And so I wanted to make sure that people were aware of this new information. There are a few copies up here. I'll read it quickly so that folks understand. The title is Open Burning Extinguishment Order, Sagal Fire District. It says, in accordance with Chapter 3, Section 37.3 of the 2018 International Fire Code, all, quote, open burning, end quote, in the fire-affected areas of the Sagal Fire District has been ordered to be extinguished by the order of the Fire Code official / fire chief. Open burning is defined as campfires, outdoor burning of yard waste, open flame devices, and charcoal fires. This order is for areas affected by the Sunset Fire and those properties under quote-unquote ready evacuation status or greater, and in parentheses, geographically defined as east of Highway 95. This order shall remain in effect until further notice. And then there's a reference to a link for more information on the evacuation zones. So since we're talking about those evacuation zones, I wanted to be sure that everyone had this additional information about fire protection in that area, I think because of the heightened concerns. But I don't know the details behind that other than the fact that that information came out shortly before our meeting this morning. And then just other areas where I've been spending my efforts this past week would be our land use hearings that we've been quite engaged in last week, and then also the finalization of our fiscal year 2026 budget. And I'll just leave it at that for this morning.
All right. I'm going to assume I'm on the agenda. Mine doesn't have a back page to it. Did it go? Okay.
Yeah,
Because I didn't want to say it if it wasn't. All right. Ongoing issues. Got some requests for some legal review from a lot of people as it relates to the mixed use definition and people that currently sit on the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I actually took that request that I received, forwarded on to Lewis Marshall, and asked for a legal opinion explaining the issue and the concern that have been brought forward by members of the community as to the impact of changing the mixed-use definition, the people that are sitting in, the positive impacts that could happen. I explained transparently to the persons and people that have messaged me that I forwarded that on for a legal decision on that, and then I'll report that back out. One of the things we talked about last week was a desire for members of the public want to see our Planning Commission and Zoning Commission and Board interviews to be conducted in public. Bill Wilson did give a legal opinion regarding that being something that you could do. I had sent a follow-up question to him regarding whether the impact of our process mirroring the way we do magistrate interviews. So in that process, the interviewees are in public. The panel is asking the questions. the public gets to watch what we're doing. And so they don't ask questions, but you get to see the asked and answered portion. We then go into executive session and we deliberate on the answers that we receive. And so I did ask Bill in follow-up, can we, I gave him an example of a motion about that particular item, and he said, well, do you really need a motion? Can you guys just vote before each one? And I thought about his response to the motion idea, and my answer is coming down on, I think the public wants us to make a definitive answer of consistency moving forward, not a case by case, but that we develop a process. And so I'm going to put forward the motion because when I read through what Bill sent and then looking at the magistrate process, I think there's an argument to be made that this should be a discussion and voted on in an open meeting by the board with the community asking us their questions and comments about that particular process. All of the board members have had an opportunity to ask Bill Wilson questions about the legal impact because what we use is a code that says personnel hiring. And so I'll put that on the agenda for next week. There's been comments made from members of the public about the water out at the fair's dump station, about water being shut off and an issue of waste. I was trying to think of a nice way to say that, waste being around that area. That has been brought to the attention of the fair manager. One of the things that this board, we've talked about quite a few times is that water isn't free water. That's a bill to the county, which is a bill to all of us. So do we have an obligation to, one of the things a lot of people are using that for is to fill up their totes for off-grid living. So what is the obligation of all of Bonner County to pay for that service for people versus the people that are using that at the fair? That's what that's intended for. And so we have to address that because I have an opinion on whether or not what that obligation is. If they're members of the public that actually use it have said they're willing to pay for that service. The problem is that we don't have a pay option available, and that would ask us to build up an infrastructure for a pay option there that we just don't have yet. So right now we're in do we allow it to continue and the whole county pays the water bill, or do we not? That's really where we are. We've looked at what are the options to put in a pay option, and it's just not feasible at this time in our current plans of the fair. One of the other issues that has come up from a issue with Zoom and YouTube in the county. So when we are on YouTube, you don't have to say who you are. When you're on Zoom, it asks for your first name and your last name. The benefit of Zoom allows you the opportunity to ask a question. So the county isn't going to accept names that are not, like it says Idaho. It needs to say the first and last name to give you the option to ask a question. A couple of weeks ago, we had somebody use the Zoom option and they had inappropriate language in our meeting. And one of the things we tried to go back and look at our level, our technology, one of the things that was brought forward was it was coming from a VPN. He talked to me about that this morning, which bounced from San Francisco. So we as a county don't know that location. But it has come up of what do we do? Because we want, our community has identified, we want to use Zoom, we want to be able to be remote. But we equally have to address the fact that one of the reasons that we can't put that video on YouTube is we will get a content ding for that video, which then negatively impacts the county. And so we need to protect our use of our Zoom by requiring that. So what you'll find is if you put your name as Idaho or something generic, you're not going to get the option to come in and speak, but you can still watch it on YouTube or come to the meeting. We have to be able to track what's happening. One of the conversations with technology was, well, do we deny people that are on VPNs to be on Zoom? And my answer is, I think most of North Idaho wants a VPN. I don't think that's going to fly because we want to do it, and we can't punish everybody because somebody did something, but we have to do something that's not just letting everyone in. So that's what you're going to see on our next meetings is don't put a generic name up there because you won't get put into Zoom. You'll have to go to YouTube. YouTube doesn't allow for comments. It's just a streaming tool. We don't want to lose our digital tools. There are Inland Power apologizes. She forgot the time. It was not 9 o'clock, but we did get some questions answered. The big questions were not answered. Everybody has asked about the battery storage. What are we really going to have to pay? And a lot of people messaged me of, I'm not going to wake up by 8 o'clock, but I want to know, is this just a way to have an extended service from Inland Power by way of a battery backup system? That was one of the questions. Their meeting will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Blanchard Community Center, and then on the 25th at 6 p.m. at the Blanchard Community Center. And so she is very apologetic for getting the time wrong, but I do have the presentation that I will upload onto the county website and Idaho True North News so that you can see the content of that information. It sounds like, in order to know what a lot of people are asking me, which is the dollars, we're going to have to go to that meeting and ask them, what are the dollars? Because in some ways, most people aren't really caring about the ins and out of the program. They want to know, how much is it going to cost me, essentially. And a big question of, is the generator that I'm already using at my home, you're just going to find a way to charge me when I already paid for the gas to put in my generator to charge your battery? And that's really what a lot of people have asked me. So catch those ones. Next week's commissioner chat is with the state controller. And so I've already sent a list of information to him, and I called him yesterday and he confirmed, yes, he is going to do the chat still. Nothing has come up. We're going to go through Transparency Idaho and Town Hall. It is not enough time for the level of questions that I have already received on the topic. But what we're doing is trying to pull what's happening in Boise into our county as a resource so that they know we care to learn about these things. And he was very excited when I met with him about doing that. We have litigation that has come towards Bonner County, and I want to say this is the first time I think this will be one of a case where the county is going to take a position on the cell tower that we're going to address it as if the board feels we did a good job evaluating the county's position and the people's position on that. So we did hire an attorney for that case. We are working on what we're going to do, but this will be an opportunity for us to see what are our defense opportunities in this type of a case, because it is unique for the county. We have a full board decision on it, with full board making the original decision and supporting moving forward with fighting the piece of litigation. That's one of the pieces of litigation that will follow us. I wanted people to be mindful, as you know of cases that you're passionate about. When we talk about those cases in public, sometimes you're giving your information to the opposing side of a case. So be mindful of that. That's why we have to do things in executive session. We're taking what we've heard from the community seriously, what we've heard from legal, and what we reviewed on that particular case. And so just be mindful of, we're fighting for Bonner County in this case, and be careful how we advertise positions and ideas online if you want to win. I guess I'll say it that way. So I think we did a really good job on budget. Budget wasn't it wasn't everything everybody wants it to be, but it was exactly what we needed it to be, which was a change in the direction that the county goes and how we approach our meetings and how we approach our budgets. So we did a really good job as a board, sticking to what are our statutory requirements, the transparency, the communication, and documentation requirements, and focusing on not just the needs of the public, but also the needs of the staff in terms of what was impacting our staff, and making good, educated, verifiable decisions that we can defend on our budget, but also doing a good job of recognizing that some things need a little bit more management. I wanted in those budget meetings to make sure we drew attention to the things that we know are facing our county that we kind of put in reserve. We didn't budget for everything that people asked for, but that didn't mean it wasn't important. It just means we don't have that level of money in our county. I am thankful to our Mayor Grimm of Sandpoint. We had a very good meeting last week about how do we pull forward more jobs into our area to help with our tax base. There's hopefully some good news coming out of a collaboration between the different municipalities to bring forward what Bonner County needs. We're attracting a lot of elderly people that need services, but we don't have the services. So from needing more medical to especially behavioral health, one of the things that Dr. Wasif agreed to participate with regional behavioral health as our hospitalist, which is important because Bonner County doesn't get as much attention, but we are a high mental health suicide area. So he did submit his application to take that role, and I'm confident that our board will agree that he can be on that position. But one of the things that he's working on is how do we get same-day urgent mental health care at Connexu, because we've circled through multiple times with somebody contacting me and me helping navigate, and that's not realistic. It just happens to be something I can do. It's not a realistic solution for that. And so their team is already working on how do we do that. And it's not realistic for their team either, because I'm calling him on his cell phone to meet me out back to help onboard a person into their system. So we're trying to get services, but the more we talk about it, the more we're able to get the state to recognize what our needs are. And lastly, I want to thank our state rep for participating with our budget discussion. He identified some changes that he's going to work on and that were already in the works. So with respect to 911 dispatch, he said he anticipates actually some changes this next year as it relates to 911 dispatch, as well as taking on a desire to address our fire more closely than what we've been working on. One of the things we want to do is get objective, factual information in the community so that people are making decisions based on what's happening in our area. There's been some thoughts about, do we need to draw lines differently? But we all have to come together. And I will say thank you to, even as Chief Armstrong is out doing building assessments, he's still responding to emails about what we need to do. And that's a lot of work. And it's one of the things we're missing is having that discussion where we're all in the same page and we're sharing our information versus kind of giving messages saying, well, I'm working on that too, and not knowing other people are working on it. So that's one of the goals, and Representative Souter is interested in helping our county address that issue. The other issue was he's willing to receive our metrics on mental health so that he can help where he can at the state level. A lot of the state reps are wanting support from us when they go down into session because they are met with lobbyists and not a lot of Bonner County minded people necessarily. And when they're running a bill that we've asked, that we've supported, developing a system that we can help support them when they're boots on the ground, to include, I'm not going to miss that bill, the water, preserving our waterways. Though when those things happen, us being present has a positive impact when they're faced with lobbyists. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions on what I have reported. Oh, I got to do an honorable, I got to say one thing about the Blues Fest is coming up on the 4th. 9th Annual Panhandle Blues Fest is on Prater Mountain on the 4th. Music starts at 10 a.m. Tickets are $10. So that's my plug for Priest River area. All right, Jonna.
Jonna Plant-Sagel. I wanted to thank you for looking into the mixed use and that with regards to Lewis. But I also want to mention that the decision with the comp plan is a legislative situation where the voice of the people is the important part. It's not a quasi-judicial where you guys have to go against or for a public or personal request from a person or a business requesting a change, which is quasi-judicial, where if you decide to go against those people, they can then ask for a reconsideration or go all the way to the Supreme Court. With a legislative situation, you guys get representatives of the, like, for example, the planning commissioners are supposed to take the voice of the people and make the changes for the comp plan. And then it's up to you guys to listen to all the people in Bonner County, whether they want those requests or changes or not. And that is good. And it's also bad. It's good that you guys will listen, hopefully, to the majority of the people that are sending letters and requests, but it's also bad. So if somebody feels that a change to mixed use could change their property value or be health situation or their health, welfare, or anything. They cannot take it to the next court, which is very upsetting to a lot of people. So that's why we're asking to consider it, that it is a legislative move, and that we ask for the general public who are writing all these letters for you to listen to. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any questions for me about what I reported out?
Questions or comments?
Questions?
I'll save it for public.
No, she doesn't have a question. She has a comment.
May I just quickly, when Commissioner Corn's done with his update, before we go to public comment, if I could circle back to mine, I missed something I'd like to highlight.
Okay. All right. All right, we'll go over to Commissioner Corn.
Okay, so this week I've been pretty busy helping out with the fire situations. The Sunset Fire started Wednesday afternoon near Sunset Road in Athol. Emergency management, along with their CERT team, set up the emergency evacuation shelter at Sago Elementary School until Red Cross showed up later that night. Thursday, the Red Cross relocated the shelter to Coquilala Bible Camp due to the needs of the school. I participated in the incident strategic alignment process, which is throwing a big map on the table, and all the agencies come together and they circle areas of interest, communication sites, different entities as far as Forest Service, IDL lands, homes and private property, just so everybody knows, that was the very first priority and the highest priority. Everything else comes after that. Critical infrastructure, railroads, high power transmission lines, things like that. I spent most of the weekend with our emergency manager, Bob Howard, attending in briefs and securing an FMAG grant, which lessens the financial burden on our Sago Fire District. So our local fire districts are tasked with structure protection, where IDL, their task is wildland fires, and they're not tasked with the structure protections. As we can all imagine, the cost of fire ramps up very quickly. So this FMAG grant, what that does, it allows our federal government, they will accept 75% of the cost to our local fire district. The state covers 15%, and our local fire district would only be tasked with covering 10%. So that was a huge cost sharing savings to Sago Fire and Selkirk Fire. Fairgrounds is accepting only large animals, horses, cattle, and sheep. Absolutely no birds or chickens. Bob Howard was able to secure the North Summit Church last night for the public meeting, of which I was asked to participate. That's why I was not at the budget meeting last night and dealing with technical difficulties of Zoom. Something to look into there. And I was asked to coordinate doing an emergency ordinance to provide a safe and secure location on the lake for the aircraft to be able to collect the water, which looks like we won't have to do that now, because last night the sheriff was asking me to follow through on an ordinance to provide him that authority to write tickets. And evidently something must have changed. He was talking to Kevin this morning. He said they're out there securing the area and they're okay with the way it is. Therefore, there's no further action on our part. And I would just like to give a big shout out to our local CERT teams, the volunteers that are helping with all this, and for Red Cross for doing what they do. Just to reiterate on the food thing, as Kevin stated this morning, that the complex incident management team cannot accept any donations. IDL cannot accept any donations. Red Cross accepts limited donations, so I would contact them first. If you want to donate something, it has to be something in a sealed container or whatever from a commercial store or something like that. But I do think that Selkirk Fire is accepting donations. I know there's a few local restaurants and stuff that have donated meals to them. So that might be an avenue for people that are wanting to help, because I know that people do want to help. We live in a great community and they feel like they need to do something, which I honor. So that's the end of my report.
Back to you.
Thank you. Sorry, I missed this earlier. So two things related to planning and zoning in the county. First, we do have planning and zoning seats on those two commissions that are expiring. And so the county is currently, we have been receiving applications, and the current deadline for those applications is noon this Friday. So if there's anyone who's interested in applying for a position, a seat on either the planning commission or the zoning commission for the county, we are still accepting applications through noon on Friday, so please proceed with doing that. You can go to the planning department website, and there's a posting on the main page there, and you can get to links for the application and instructions on filling out the application and then emailing that or dropping that off to the planning department. And then also, to create general awareness, our current planning director of the planning department, Director Gabel, he has informed us that he's intending to move on to a slightly different career path in the near future. And so as of yesterday, we have posted the planning director position, and we are now accepting applications for the planning director position in the county. So we would encourage people to get the word out so that, again, for all of these considerations, both the planning director, the planning commission, and the zoning commission, we can get as many applicants as possible to have a good pool to select from. So sorry that I missed mentioning those earlier, but that now finally concludes my District 1 Commissioner update.
All right. All right, now we'll open up for public comment. Reg, oh, sorry, no, she had her hand up first, it's just we went back, so can we hand her the microphone? No, we're not doing that. She's a nurse, so just mindset. There you go.
You took the wind out of my sails because I came here because I wanted to talk about that video that was on YouTube.
Oh.
With the disgusting language and name calling. It infuriated me. I understand now why they don't have it up on the webpage, because YouTube would ding you. I didn't know that because I felt like Bonner County was hiding it. And I don't think Bonner County should hide something like that. Because hate is here. It's not real common, but we need to be mindful that it is. I'm glad they tried to trace it. I hope that they had the right people try to trace it, because I work with some people that have work with the Pentagon and work with Cisco and things like that, who probably could trace that. So I'm praying that they did have the right people try to trace it. I have a question in that, does it only ask for your name?
You have to put your first name, your last name, and an email address.
Anybody can fake an email address. Does Zoom give options to give location, Bonner County specifically?
So I'm going to double back and say Diane Willey, for the record, Bonner County resident, and then say there are things that you could do, but the question comes, do we require more hoops for Bonner County to jump through because somebody did something wrong, or do we say it happened and so Bonner County's investigation into the origin of that video is just one step?
The reason I ask is that somebody could put a real halt to these Zoom things just simply by calling one every week with terrible epithets that they want, then it can't be posted on anymore. So it was a one-off, but it was an ugly one-off. I found it suspiciously close to a photograph that made two of our commissioners look like convicts that was posted online. And I see no reason why anyone outside of Bonner County should call into this meeting. So that's what I have to say.
So one of the things on the video, Bill Wilson gave a legal opinion. The video he deems a public record. So it's just not accessible online to not get dinged. So members of the public who have asked, because I've gotten a lot of that question too, is it being hidden? It's just not being easily retrieved. Public record, he says it's can be released. It's just not going to live on our site.
Well, I'm glad you could explain that in public so that people know it's there, but why it's not.
Yes, and Director Storms came and explained to me where they were with it this morning. And so what he has is, it's being reviewed at a different level. It's just what Bonner County can do has been exhausted. All right. Are you standing for a comment or are you just doing the microphone thing? Okay. You know what, Reg Crawford, you can sit, it's just that day, Reg, and he's in person, so I can't mute that. Reg, get your husband, you're here today.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
It doesn't work.
Okay,
Yes.
Reg Crawford, Bonner County. I wanted to take this opportunity to let the public know that there is a workshop this evening with the Planning Commission to go over the Planning Department's proposed code changes for short plats that will be replacing the minor land divisions. I just found out about this yesterday, and I didn't find anybody else who follows planning issues who is aware this was happening. I get this is a busy time for everyone, but there's just this lack of clarity in the way things are getting noticed. With all the Planning Commission has going on, and with the comp plan changes and the code changes, tonight's agenda is insufficiently specific. The agenda only states the file number and the title or chapter with no descriptive terms. And open meeting laws state that the public should be able to clearly understand what is going to be discussed. I should also clarify that this is not just Title 12, Chapter 6, but 2 full amendments with proposed changes to 5 different chapters. And as mentioned, today is a workshop / discussion only, meaning there's no action item and they can't vote on anything. I imagine given there is this opportunity for public input and the commissioner suggestions, that what the planning department puts forward tonight may not be the draft that is put forth at the next step, which is the planning commission hearing. But now wait, the hearing on all of this is already scheduled for next Wednesday. And a pretty thorough notice was published in the paper. So the question is planning convinced that there will be no changes from today's workshop? If they do take any suggestions, then neither the public nor the planning commission will have sufficient time to review the new draft before the hearing. And if they do incorporate changes, the hearing notice and agenda will have to be amended. So this is kind of a cart before the horse sitch. I understand the moratorium puts a time frame on this issue, but for how much public interest there was when the county chose to remove MLDs and put land divisions back under LUPA, this seems inappropriately rushed to hearing. Furthermore, this lack of specificity on agendas and the 1 week time frame between the workshop and the hearing, it pretty much ensures that there may be a lot of newcomers to the next step, which may be the BOCC hearing. And the question is, isn't it more desirable to have public input and a more final draft in place before it comes to this board? I'm hoping you can please direct the planning department to agendize in a way the general public can understand the topics and to allow sufficient time between the workshops and hearings to actually digest and incorporate public and planning commission input. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Martin.
Go ahead.
You're just gonna stand by?
I'll stand by you.
All right, Michelle Johnson.
Good morning, Michelle Johnson, Bonner County resident. 2 things I would like to just make comments about. One, I know with land use hearings, it is my understanding that the county commissioners do not see any of the complaints that have been submitted. I don't know if that is accurate or not, but I do hope that that information is provided to the commissioners. That way, when you are at a hearing, you have everything. You guys have all of the information to be able to make an informed decision. The second, I am going to follow up with, I guess, Alex and Katie Hansen. I did a proposal for applications for CUPs. We have no boots on the ground, so I would like to see something some sort of inspection just to verify applications are complete and accurate. That seems to be a big thing with applications and hearings, that a lot of erroneous information. So I have not heard back, but I'm going to follow up with them again. But thank you for listening.
Michelle, when you say complaints, do you mean like emails and comments?
Yes, so that's what I submitted to Katie Hansen.
Okay, so the board receives a copy of those, and then our file gets put together, that all of the public comments go in, for or against whatever your position is, to include comments from outside agencies. So all of comments should be read up unto the point that that section closes.
Okay, so everything that's submitted to the planning department side, as far as that goes into their bucket, and then we get emails back that your complaints, your comment has been received, versus I was told the complaints are separate.
So that's why I was asking, are you saying on a file or an issue as a, I don't agree with someone's setback complaint? So, because there's two ways, you can complain about a file and you can then complain about something you don't like in the county.
I don't want to point out names, but I know, like, for the bike park, I know that there have been people that have submitted formal complaints, just so that type of information. I was told that that's not provided. That the complaint information that goes to Katie separate.
I understand where you're going. Bike park was not a good example only because it's attached to a file, so we would see that one. But in general, if there was no actual file on something and someone were just making a complaint, you're not wrong in that the board needs to address how do we, if sometimes people will email and say, I filed this complaint, I don't think it's getting any traction, and then we're messaging over to planning to see what's going on. So one of the things that planning is being asked to address is the process by which those come in. You don't get to see all of the information during the time that there's an investigation that's ongoing. Specifically regarding there's a lot of pro and con emails coming to the board to include people saying cup violation complaint. That has been reviewed and it is being investigated. A letter has gone out, but there's no comment from the Board of Commissioners on that because there's an investigation that's occurring with that. And so if you have a concern that you've put forward a complaint about a planning issue or a zoning issue and you're not sure whether or not it's getting traction, do your due diligence and reach out to a commissioner and ask if they're aware of that, but it's not going to be a public thing. And there's not and maybe there's a need for the board to address the process by which during our monthly planning updates, do we go over complaints that have been received? I don't know that one, but you're not wrong in that type of complaint. We don't get copied on those ones. We get copied on things that are attached to a file. That's why I say the bike park isn't a good example because it has a file attached to it. That's why we're seeing those ones.
Okay.
Okay.
That helps us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Teresa Heisner.
Good morning again, Teresa Heisner, Bonner County. A couple things. I really wish we could get the county website squared away. It is a disaster. It's something I've been griping about for months. I just cannot. It's not simple. It's stupid. Another thing is, do we, and if we don't, I don't think we do, when we get a new planning director, I think it's crucial that we have a liaison between cities because these cities are growing exponentially. And honestly, we all know where all the folks in the city are going to spill out onto. They're going to spill out into our county. And so I think it's crucial that we have a liaison that's communicating with the mayors in our city, and we have a handful of them. The other thing is, I do think that there should be transparency regarding our new applicants for planning and zoning commissions. As we know in the past, there's been some characters on those boards that probably shouldn't have been on there. So I think we have a right to see who's being interviewed. And then lastly, Ron, I don't know if I missed something. Were you asked to be a representative for the county to go and jump in on the incident command on the fire, and doing so by ditching a budget hearing, which is your job? And I'm sure you won't answer that, but in my opinion, if you weren't asked to go, and I appreciate your enthusiasm, I think that your job really resides with the county and its needs. And that's all I have. Thanks, everyone.
Can I ask, Reg, what was the date? You're talking about the meeting for planning for tonight?
Tonight is a planning commission workshop slash discussion on the two code amendments. And then next week, Wednesday, is the date they published in the paper, and that's on the website for the hearings on what they're workshopping tonight.
And I'm trying to look to make sure I'm looking for the ease of use to find what you're talking about.
Good luck.
And then Teresa's comment about the website issue, because if I went just to planning, I can see where people find the difficulty. But when you look on the meeting calendar, you can click on their agenda.
Yeah, the agenda is not, or the meeting is not on the calendar at all for next week, Wednesday. It's when you go to planning under current projects and click on the code amendment, there is where they have the public hearing announcement. And then it was also, I believe, published on August 5th in the B.
I see that.
But it's not on the calendar on the county side at all.
Okay, thank you. All right, Michelle and Jonna spoke. I think they just didn't put hands down.
Jonna spoke?
No, John, I haven't spoken in this yet. Jonna Plant, if it's okay, I just wanted to mention that somebody just brought up letters to you guys. Jake Cabell made it very clear, letters to the planning department in regards to the comp plan changes. I know many people wrote. When they closed the public meetings where they went, then they put it all together. And all those letters did not get sent to you. He said those are not going to you guys, that anybody that wrote has to rewrite and send them to you in regards to, for example, mixed use. So he said, no, those went in a different file, meaning they're in file, but they're not sent to you, and everybody needed to resend letters. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay. Lone man standing.
So you got copies of these this morning. Wayne Martin, Bonner County resident, for the record. I wish to thank the commissioners and the county staff for all the work on the budget that you folks have been doing. The county commissioners for all their work behind the scenes on the fire that has occurred. First off, I want to thank Emergency Services, Red Cross, Fire, Medical, Law Enforcement, Aries CERT members for all their work, long hours, and the Sagal community that has offered up areas for animals, lodging, bringing water, cat, dog food for the evacuees and their pets, including kennels. Ron, thank you very much for showing up. I know I've gotten multiple reports that, Brian, you've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. Now, the real reason that I'm standing before you, my thunder was stolen yesterday by the Sunset Fire meeting last night. Many of my concerns were addressed, finally, by having a well-thought-out, informative fire update. I had been receiving many phone calls asking for information because people know that I'm involved. They know that I'm involved with the Sheriff's Department, involved with CERT and other organizations, and I can't answer all of them. I don't get the information. I heard multiple people complaining about the notifications on evacs, and it was not clear. There were people that rushed from home or to home from work or other locations that they were at because they were getting reports that they were having to evac because of the fire. And it was not the case. Either looking at a weather map, you could tell that it was not there. If you looked at Fire Watch, if it had been updated, it was not there. It was nowhere near for them. The Sheriff's Office has now provided a site, bonnerso.org, for information to be going out, which is very nice to have that. My understanding is that it's not completely up yet because he's having to do an outside contractor to create that website, but it will be there. Real quick, I'm going to mention the Chief Armstrong's memo. That is because of people lighting fires in the zones that if it shows up on the cameras that they're using to monitor the fire, then they have to send out fire equipment to check that. And if it's just a campfire, if it's, whatever, it's wasting resources and times. I do know the sheriff's department has been stretched thoroughly. Fortunately, we've had assistance from from ISP and other police departments to help them because of all the work. I know people were upset that Firewatch was not being updated as rapidly as it does and has been for fires such as Palisades, Eaton, and other areas. Part of that is those people up in this area were out on the fire lines and not able to report stuff. Our county is understaffed, limited availability of equipment, and in some cases, old and outdated equipment procedures. In some cases, lack of supplies and protocols have hurt this county and this fire. The Sunset Fire does not have any zones. That's been corrected for evac orders coming out. If you look at fires such as, the Rock Fire, Gifford Fire, Elk, and even the Palisades fires and all those, they had specific zones set up. So you could look at the zones and be able to check very quickly as to where you needed to go and all. Orders seem to be were very broad and all. It could have created very dangerous situations. Thursday, when I went to help one of our neighbors evac, coming back to our location with stuff for them, I almost had a head-on collision with ISP units that were racing up East Duford Road. Fortunately, I noticed their lights. I pulled over to the side as one of the units was completely on my side of the road. And I may not have been here today had I not noticed that. The evacuation center on Wednesday only had 25 people check in. People don't understand that by checking into an evac center doesn't mean they have to stay there. It gives us, the people that are manning that, the ability then when somebody else comes in from the community to find out about a family member or a friend, we can sit there and say, yes, we know where they are, and we've got some information saying they went to a friend's, they went to family, they're staying in a motel, hotel. Only 4 people ended up spending the night when Red Cross finally showed up. I'm thankful that Red Cross did show up, but it does take time because in this case, they were coming out of Spokane. I've repeatedly come to the county meetings and attempted to get zoning, planning, county commissioners, not you folks, to understand the responsibility of the county and making sure that the citizens are aware of potential fire safety, along with medical law enforcement, where we are deficient or are hurting. The Sunset Fire should be a wake-up call for the people of this county, but I believe if we're lucky, people might remember this for about 6 months at most. Neither state nor federal law says that we have to make or provide homes for people, but there should be thoughtful planning, allowing growth from the cities outward that can and will permit Bonner County citizens and visitors the opportunity to enjoy our county and lifestyle. Thoughtful planning and approval of projects and developments will allow moderate increases while allowing emergency services to grow and attempt to meet the expectations of our citizens. Many people move to this area and they do not realize what small county living is like. If you come from LA, New York, Seattle, Chicago, Dallas, Las Vegas, you expect services to respond extremely quickly, and that does not happen out here. Developers, real estate agents do not advise their clients of the potential hazards of the property that they may be interested in buying. Their feelings are buyer beware. Seems to be their motto, and they seem to care more about the money that's headed into their bank accounts than they are to the people buying. All right, I will change to the last one. In closing, we all need to work together to keep this area that we call home a place that we can be proud of. Whether it's Democrats, Republicans, left, right, we need to join together for a better Bonner County. It is a pleasure to come to the commissioner meetings now because the three of you work together very well. And you can notice that by the lack of people that are coming here. The numbers are now, but it's not because of lack of caring, but because we feel that you folks are hearing our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to do your detailed review. I do want to say one of the things that Chief Armstrong is calling for, it, especially once we get out of, the active fire area, is for the county to have that conversation on fire in Bonner County and what is our standard going to be, and participating more actively with the local fire areas to develop a plan collaboratively, kind of in line with the comment about making sure that the county is interfacing with other municipalities. That's something that I've been working on, and Chief Armstrong has been calling and sending us very detailed emails about needing to address that collaboration, especially since that's in their wheelhouse, their specialty. And we think of fire when we have a fire, and then when we're messing with a planning file that we need to get a comment from fire. But we are moving towards, we need to start planning for things, and he is available and offered his resources to do that. And I think we're going to see more of that in our, now that we're out of budget time, that collaboration. He has, because we were just emailing the other day, identifying, requesting that our community and our elected officials participate with their meetings, because it is difficult to ask for all three of those districts to be in the same room because of quorum issues, timing issues, and as much as we want to have the discussion, they are emergency services. So what can we do to help gain our knowledge by participating with what they've already scheduled to ease their own schedule? So that's also on my radar of things to do once we're done. So thank you for bringing it forward.
Good morning, everyone. Mike Brambilla here with the Sheriff's Office. I just wanted to update what Wayne said. That information on the Bonner's Sheriff's Office website is active, and basically it's notices as far as evacuations and the latest updates, and those are all coordinated through hyperlinks with Selkirk Fire and IDL. So it is up and running now.
Thank you. All right, any other public comment? Let's go here and then back to you. He hasn't spoken yet.
Bob Frank, Bonner County resident for the record. I'm glad to see that there's a hyper interest right now in fire and public safety. That's great. There's 48 public meetings a year for the West Side, North Side, and Sagal fire departments in their joint powers agreement. I attend these meetings frequently, and I'm almost always the only member of the public at large to be there. So take the opportunity, think about it. The fires are bad. They want your participation. They need your input. So I just wanted to get up and say that, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Are you determined to walk, or can we bring you back? All right. She had a look of very determined. It didn't matter, so.
I gotta move.
Okay.
That's blood clots, right?
Right. I saw it in your face, like it really doesn't matter. I'm getting it.
I just had one question. It was from.
And who are you again?
I'm sorry, Diane Welly, Bonner County. It actually was a question from, related to something Wayne said, and that was at the command center, that they were wanting to take names of people, have you check in, make sure you're okay. But we have to remember looters are a problem, so I wouldn't say Diane Welly checked in and she's at a hotel or she's at a friend's, because you don't want to give out information to people that might not have the same heart that he has or you. And that they just want to know your house is empty and that you're gone.
Yeah.
So it was a concern when I heard that. I went, ooh.
But they have to mention or know names and
Yeah.
know when we do that. And I understand what you're saying.
That's not hard. So I think the answer should just be they've checked in, they're fine.
Yeah.
Nothing more. That was just something that I heard.
It's like the Facebook post, I'm on vacation.
Right.
Yeah, got you. Okay. All right, it is 10:54 and this meeting is adjourned. You guys need a second before we do executive session? Only because I saw Bill peek his nose at me.
We start the business at 6.
Good morning.
6:30.